Some say the most terrifying part of The Conjuring isn't in the movie at all. It's the real curse that still lingers over the farmhouse. That story comes later. Before we get there, we'll uncover how this movie was built on real fear, unsettling legends, and a family that could never escape. When we reach fact number 5, you'll understand why this haunting refuses to stay in the past. Number 1, every clock in the Perrin farmhouse froze at exactly 3:07 a.m., the moment fear took shape. Time became part of the haunting itself. Andrea Perrin remembered the silence. Clocks stopping, air thickening, as if the house held its breath. In the movie, James Wan turned that into a visual curse, each tick halting at the same second, echoing a dark legend tied to Bathsheba Sherman, the accused witch said to have died at that hour. Paranormal researchers often call 3 a.m. the devil's hour, and the Perrins lived it night after night. The detail came from their testimonies. By making 3:07 the recurring timestamp of terror, the movie locked their dread into the rhythm of time itself, a moment that never moved forward, the second that always came back. Number 2, the real Perrin farmhouse sold in 2022 for about $1.5 million, and with it came the weight of its haunted legacy. For years, the house in Harrisville, Rhode Island, stood as a magnet for thrill seekers. After the movie's release, visitors showed up uninvited, leaving behind trespassing charges and police reports. The owners who lived there after the Perrins even filed lawsuits, saying their lives had been disrupted by the endless stream of fans looking for ghosts. In 2022, the property changed hands again, but not quietly. The sale was national news because buyers were now investing in one of the most infamous haunted locations in America. Now it operates partly as a paranormal attraction, where ghost hunters and tourists step into the same rooms that inspired The Conjuring, walking willingly into a home that history's marked with dread. Number 3, a seance spiraled so horrifying that Carolyn Perrin levitated and spoke in a strange voice, prompting the Warrens to be ordered out. Andrea Perrin, the oldest daughter, recalled the night in vivid detail. The Warrens gathered the family, a few researchers, and a medium to confront what plagued the house. As the ritual began, Carolyn's body stiffened, her chair lifted, and her voice turned guttural, words spilling out in a language no one recognized. The children screamed. Roger Perrin panicked, and in the chaos he pulled his wife back, demanding the Warrens leave immediately. That moment fractured trust and marked the end of their official involvement in the case. It's one of the few times even the Warrens admitted things went too far. For the Perrins, it was proof that whatever lived in their home wasn't finished, only stronger and far more dangerous than anyone expected. Number 4, before production, screenwriters interviewed Lorraine Warren repeatedly to weave her real stories into the script's chilling spine. Chad and Carrie Hayes, the brothers behind the screenplay, didn't rely on secondhand notes. He sat with Lorraine in her Connecticut home, asking her to walk them through the case detail by detail. She spoke about the farmhouse, about Carolyn Perrin's possession, about the way the family lived under constant fear. Every pause, every memory, gave the writers the rhythm they needed. Vera Farmiga took it further. She spent days shadowing Lorraine, listening to her cadence, studying her faith, even sleeping in her home to absorb her presence. The movie's version of Lorraine didn't come from invention. It came from an imitation of the woman herself. When audiences saw Vera's performance, they were catching an echo of the real investigator who believed she had battled the darkness inside that farmhouse. Number 5, Bathsheba Sherman cursed the land in 1863 after sacrificing her baby, her wicked legacy haunting every inhabitant thereafter. Local legends in Harrisville describe Bathsheba as a farmer's wife accused of witchcraft when an infant in her care died under violent circumstances. Neighbors whispered that she'd offered the child to Satan, and though no court convicted her, the accusation stuck like a stain. Stories claim she climbed a tree near the property, proclaimed her devotion to the devil, and hanged herself at precisely 3:07 a.m. For the Perrins, this was the figure at the center of their nightmare. In The Conjuring, James Wan transformed Bathsheba into the unseen hand behind every shadow, grounding the movie's evil in local folklore that already carried a century of fear. Whether history distorted her life or not, her name became inseparable from the farmhouse and the legend that spread worldwide. Number 6, the parents' family's dog refused to enter the house on the very first night, its instincts screaming silent warning. When the family arrived in 1971, they brought along their dog, a companion meant to make the new farmhouse feel like home. Instead, the animal froze at the threshold, whimpering, digging in its paws, resisting every tug of the leash. It stayed outside, choosing the cold over the warmth of the hearth. That same night, the parents found the dog lifeless in the yard. The cause was never explained. For Andrea Perrin, it was the first sign that the house was not theirs alone. In horror lore, animals often sense what humans can't, reacting to unseen presences. This wasn't a crafted scare, it was their reality. From the very beginning, even the family's most loyal protector seemed to know the farmhouse belonged to something else. Number 7, Lorraine Warren foresaw she would marry Ed the moment she met him as a teen, finding fate and fear. Lorraine often said she had her first vision at a movie theater. She was 16, working as an usher when she met Ed Warren, a boy fresh from serving in World War II. The instant she saw him, she claimed to glimpse their entire future together: marriage, family, and a life spent confronting the paranormal. The bond became the backbone of their work. Ed painted houses by day while studying demonology at night. Lorraine sharpened her psychic abilities, guided by her Catholic faith. Together, they built a reputation as one of America's most famous investigating couples. The Conjuring captures that unity on screen, portraying them as partners who leaned on each other when facing the darkness. Number 8, Ed Warren always believed the Perrin case would become a movie. In the afterlife, he may well have pushed for it. Of all the investigations the Warrens conducted, Ed singled out the Perrin haunting as one of the most disturbing. He told Andrea Perrin and her mother that one day their story would reach the world, not through lectures or books, but on a movie screen. The case had everything: a cursed history, a family under siege, and events that even seasoned investigators struggled to explain. Ed passed away in 2006, years before The Conjuring went into production. Yet when the movie finally emerged, Lorraine said she felt his hands in it, like Ed had guided the project from beyond. For the Perrins, the prophecy came true. Their nightmare wasn't locked in the 1970s anymore. It became a part of horror cinema, exactly as Ed once predicted. Number 9, scenes in the movie were shot in chilling chronological order, building dread in real time. James Wan wanted his actors to feel the story the way the Perrins lived it, slowly, step by step, as fear crept deeper into their lives. It's a method rarely used in Hollywood because it complicates schedules and budgets, but for horror, it can be devastatingly effective. Vera Farmiga and Patrick Wilson began filming lighter moments first, gradually moving into the darker sequences where possessions and exorcism took hold. By the time the cast reached the climax, they'd carried weeks of rising tension with them, mirroring the exhaustion and fear of the characters they played. The Perrin daughters on screen felt like a family unraveling because the actresses had lived that unraveling together, one day after another. Number 10, Lorraine Warren even makes a cameo in the movie as an audience member. During the scene where Ed and Lorraine present their findings to a small lecture hall, the real Lorraine Warren can be seen sitting among the crowd. For James Wan, her appearance was a blessing on the project. Vera Farmiga, who had spent time living with Lorraine to prepare for the role, later said the cameo carried enormous weight on the set. It was a reminder that this wasn't simply horror fiction, but the retelling of events tied to real people who'd lived them. Lorraine watched as an actress portrayed her younger self stepping into darkness, and she quietly smiled. In a movie filled with possessions, curses, and shadows, her silent cameo became its own kind of haunting, an echo of authenticity woven straight into the real. Number 11, the filmmakers condemned 20 to 30 minutes of footage to the cutting room floor to sharpen its relentless terror. James Wan shot a version of The Conjuring that stretched far longer than the final film. Early screenings made something clear: horror needs momentum. Too many slow pauses or lengthy backstories can dull the edge of fear, so entire sequences were trimmed. Character beats tightened, and long silences clipped into tense bursts. The result was a leaner cut where suspense had no room to breathe. Every scare hit harder because the movie kept moving forward, drawing viewers into the farmhouse with no escape hatch. Editors later said the deleted scenes weren't bad, they were simply unnecessary. By paring away excess, Wan crafted a rhythm that felt like a haunting itself. Steady footsteps, then a sudden crash, The house always stayed alive, even in what the audience never saw. Number 12, some skeptics argue the Perrin haunting was exaggerated or manipulated, but the fear felt by the family was very real. Paranormal researchers, debunkers, and skeptics have long questioned the story. They point out that Bathsheba's legend lacks solid evidence, and some even accuse the Warrens of dramatizing events to fit their narrative. Yet when Andrea Perrin published her trilogy House of Darkness, House of Light, her testimony didn't read like a Hollywood pitch. It read like lived trauma. She described nights of paralysis, furniture moving on its own, and the sight of her mother collapsing during the seance. To this day, the Perrin sisters stand by their memories, refusing to call it fiction. For the skeptics, the case remains unproven. For the family, the scars never left. The clash between disbelief and testimony is part of what made The Conjuring so unsettling. It mirrored the same divide audiences felt after the credits rolled. Number 13, the Warrens stored relics like the haunted music box from the Perrin home in their infamous occult museum. Ed and Lorraine believed that when an object was tied to a haunting, it carried traces of the evil that clung to it. Rather than destroy these items, they locked them away in a converted room at their Connecticut home, a place that became known as the Warren Occult Museum. Alongside the Annabelle doll set crucifixes, masks, and the music box tied to the Perrin farmhouse. Ed often compared the collection to nuclear waste storage, safe only as long as it stayed contained. Visitors have described an oppressive feeling inside the museum, as if unseen eyes followed their every step. For the Warrens, it was a grim archive of their work. For the world, it became a gallery of cursed history that inspired spin-offs across the Conjuring universe. Number 14, the Perrin family lived through their nightmare in the farmhouse from 1971 until 1980, nearly a decade of dread. Most families would have fled within weeks, but the Perrins stayed, year after year, raising 5 daughters under a roof they swore was alive. Financial strain was one reason. Selling a property already rumored to be cursed was nearly impossible. But there was also a strange attachment, as though the house itself held them in its grasp. Andrea Perrin later described it as a coexistence with the spirits, some violent, some oddly protective. They learned to live with doors slamming, beds shaking, and whispers in the dark. By the time they finally left, the children had grown into teenagers who thought haunting was normal. For the Perrins, those 9 years became the shape of their childhood. Number 15, the Warrens often debunked hauntings as mundane causes, except when they encountered the truly messed up stuff. Ed and Lorraine weren't called only to battle demons. Much of their work involved investigating creaks in old houses, faulty plumbing, or tricks of the mind that families mistook for supernatural events. They built credibility by ruling out the ordinary before turning to the extraordinary. But every so often, they faced cases that defied logic. The Perrin farmhouse was one of them. Lorraine later described it as a place heavy with presence, layered with tragedy and violence that refused to leave. For the Warrens, it became a dividing line in their career. The moment they knew some hauntings weren't myths or misreadings, but something far darker. And that's it. Now to you. If one farmhouse could hold this much fear, what secrets might be waiting in the Warrens' other cases, still locked away and untold? Share your thoughts in the comments section below, and if you're brave enough for more, check out our recent video on 15 scary facts you didn't know from The Exorcist. Seriously, you'll never look at classic horror films the same way again. Stay tuned for our next Classic Movie Rewind.